Hi, everybody, and welcome to another episode of The Lifting. Today, we are going to want to talk about the art of co creating. And we think this is very timely with everything that's going on these days. And just to let you know, we recorded this episode on the 13th of December in 2020. So we've been speaking a lot about this, about how historically we are co-creative type of beings. However, a lot of our co-creative skills have been utilized a lot for someone else's benefit and not ours. And we've actually kind of, let's say, de-evolved in our abilities to co-create as far as co-creating for ourselves. But again, falling into patterns that will produce results that maybe aren't necessarily for your highest good, but for someone else's agenda. So we want to cover that a little bit more in depth, and we want to give you some good examples of how it is done using a lot of different areas and including today's current events. So we want you guys to give this some thought and then think about what you're doing in your own lives, and then think about, do you have the desire to move forward and try something a little bit differently that may then start to have different results that you may like better. So we always want to thank those people that support us on Patreon. We have other talks that go on there. You guys, really, the support's amazing. I always say people don't know the expenses that are there as far as just trying to maintain a YouTube account and how expensive different things are to put shows up. So you guys are vital in helping us being able to do that. So we really, really, really do thank you and all that support. But as always, we like to start with an affirmation and prayer. In today, I guess I will start with one, which is blessings to everyone that is listening now. May your hearts open to hear and to consider, how are you advocating for yourselves during this time, and how are you advocating for others? Listen and learn and open your heart, and as you move forward, let go of what no longer serves you. So with that, I think this is going to be kind of an interesting discussion, but I think it would be fun. And this is a little impromptu. We actually don't have a script because I think some of the importance for us now is to be able to do some of this a little more impromptu for purpose of getting information out, in the most timely manner without the ability of something to greatly interfere. So one of the first examples that I think we should use as far as talking about how something could be done where you start to potentially co-opt a thought or idea and give energy to it that may not be for your highest good. And we're going to actually start in dream time. So some very important things happened to us, both of us, last night. It's an interesting dynamic that occurs here every now and then where we may not even have exactly the same dream. It's not, sometimes we've been in exactly the same dream, but sometimes we're not. However, there is potentially interference occurring within both persons at the same time. And so I'm going to let Chris start with what his dream was, and then I can tell you at the exact same time what mine was and how I reacted within it. But again, this is related to, co-creations. Okay, so go ahead.
Okay, this is how this began. It's a little messed up at the beginning. It was kind of all over the place, where I was encountering someone that looked like a friend of ours. almost like a dinner party. You didn't hear this part. And we were all kind of sitting around. There was other people there. There were people I recognized, some I didn't, and we were talking about like our different sessions and our different things we've encountered where we live. And then it started to move over into following a timeline over to my house in Lincoln, Nebraska, the one I lived at on Hartley Street, where you see some of my paranormal videos come out of. Then I remember seeing my grandmother we lived there with, and also this figure was following me the entire time. He had long hair, darker skin, and a goatee, very similar to mine, not this computerized friggin' thing that keeps popping up. I can't move it again like I could before. But anyway, what happened was then all of a sudden it moved over to a hospital setting. It was very grim. The same figure was with me. This same, we'll say, magician was with me, and looking at this person that was on a table dying, that had actually gotten the vaccine and the COVID vaccine. And he was laying on a hospital bed. I don't want to say a table, hospital bed, but it had no rails or anything on it, and it was lower to the ground. And this being, or this person, was looking inside and looking at this person's core like I usually do, and was showing me what the inside of this person's core looked like. It was almost like, firstly, if you see somebody's skeleton, it was like almost like the chest was separated from the lower body and the head was separated from the neck and all these other weird things, almost like an exploded view of the inside of the person. But at the same time, the person's soul was becoming detached from their body, very much like how some people feel that the vaccines actually are. And even some of the galactics confirmed a little bit that it's actually not what it appears, but that's not what I'm getting into right now. What happened here was I was playing the role of both the disembodied person and a family member. There were several family members crowded around this person. And this person ends up dying. And so I went over to this other person. It was almost like I was the oppressor that was actually harming the person, at the same time going over to the person to spark violence, like a demon would be. And this other man walks in, who's a nurse, a male nurse, and the family members were demanding that he help revive the person. And the person's like, "Oh no, we can't do that. We can't risk any of this." And the family members basically killed this person out of their grief and out of their anger. And this started a whole series of chain of events where it led up to civil unrest and conflict. It was like this was like an event, a watershed event that started this whole thing, and it was over the vaccines themselves. But it was really in the scenario, paying attention to the scenario. It was really the very being that was standing with me the entire time. It was really that shyster that was in there that actually harmed the person. How? It is because a certain consent was actually given, and I'll describe this. People believe also denying the vaccines, you aren't giving consent, and also, of course, people that wanted are giving consent, and it's not necessarily that black and white. Going back to a video I did on our Patreon called Pandora's Box, where people were keeping the demons in Pandora's box, but at the same time, they were reaffirming their existence by constantly holding them captive instead of transmuting them. They were constantly holding them captive within the Hodge. If you go onto our Patreon, you'll see a recording that says Pandora's Box. What I mean by this is this. Yes, are there dangerous factors within these vaccines? Absolutely. And you'll hear me on another recording also saying don't necessarily take these. And you'll hear that, because I'm fervently against it. But at the same time, is being fervently against it, still reaffirming its existence. It is still making it solid, making it a thing, instead of letting it just transmute and slide on by, like what I said about Pandora's box, not co-creating a box full of demons, but just allowing it to slide on by. And this might not be a popular answer. And am I fervently against us taking this? Absolutely. I have no intention of taking this. But at the same time, we cannot co-create a monster that wouldn't necessarily always be there. And I'm not saying that the military cabal, corporate arms aren't necessarily putting something horrific in these things to make people lose their minds. But are they actually creating something that will separate your soul from your body? That would be basically killing somebody. But do I believe that they have the capability along with the aliens? Yes and no, but I don't believe it's that horrific with the vaccines. Do I believe it's nasty being an RNA resequencer? Yes, I do. Do I want my DNA rewritten? No, I don't. But am I going to turn this vaccine into a boogeyman that it might not be completely? It's like with COVID. Think with COVID. I call it the barely there virus. It's mostly 99% propaganda, but yet people think it's the most horrible thing to ever have been created on the earth. This goes with its counterpart, which is supposed to be the vaccine. Same type of propaganda on both sides here. It's the same monster. It's the same monster people are bloating out of control, but putting it in a yin-yang format.
And they have to have you buying in your co-creative
and you have to
abilities to
co-create,
work
yeah.
with it. If you didn't buy in and start co-creating a lot of this, it wouldn't be happening. It's just like, the meme going around about the Amish, and nobody who's Amish is sick because they didn't turn on their TVs. So it's that kind of concept. No power is being given to it because they're not paying attention to it, not giving any energies to it at all.
Yeah.
So in contrast to that, at the same exact time, what we realized is the same exact dark being, let's say, was in my dream as well. But my dream was totally different. But it is a counter side, I think, to this whole discussion. So in my dream, I was there. And as many of you know, on the outside world, I work as a nurse. And I was actually just gone to a particular place with a few other nurses present, let's say to get some in-servicing or to learn something, okay? And so I was there. Now, what's weird about it is the next, let's call it the next scene, I'm waking up. Oh.
Here we go again.
Here we go.
There we go.
So I'm waking up and, because I had fallen asleep during the day, let's say. And one of the people, the one who was maybe I was supposed to be truly learning from, began to, in front of other nurses as well, began to really chastise me and, put me down. Although no one apparently attempted to waken me, they let me sleep. And she started belittling me and this, that. And I was very upset with this particular person. First of all, I've been tired. And I think a lot of you can identify. I literally have been tired. I've been, like most of us out there, this is hard. And I literally feel like I can't seem to get a good night's sleep all the time. And I'm tired within, 5 hours of waking, I'm tired again. I know a lot of you guys can identify with that. But she was chastising me and this, that, and the other. And I was kind of, myself just kind of very angry to receive this, because in my mind, I don't have a history of being a slackert. I don't have a history of doing things like that. And I've been tired and maybe not feeling 100%. meaning, maybe should have stayed home and not gone in and taken a sick day or something like that. But she was chastising me. Now, the important part of this is I was standing up for myself in this dream because, again, this was a moment, but it wasn't certainly representative of the professional that I was throughout time. But you would have thought this was the kind of chastising that someone who really has been a slacker for all of their professional career would deserve. And so I was, talking back, and I, made a statement, you have known me for a long time. And I was still, let's say, asserting myself in there, stating how I feel. But probably the most important thing that was said, that I woke up and realized was the most important thing that was said from that other person, was that, yes, I have known you a long time. As I'm arguing back and having my peace. And I woke up, going, basically feeling like I was being ghosted by a demon who's been around for a long time, in my dream. And I think one of the key parts that had me so upset at that moment, again, that applies to now, was the lack of grace. And again, we're in a moment right now where, should we be granting each other grace or being very, very hostile? And so I feel that the dream was a little bit of that representative, and again, gave me the opportunity to be able to say, I'm going to take your hostility, or I'm going to stand up for myself kind of moment. But it was happening again, this dream, at the same time that Chris was having his. And so in the context of where we are right now, grace is a very important word that needs to be given, because you have to go back into the concept of, again, with all of this time that we've been saying is about self-reflection, cleaning yourself out. You don't want to take what you no longer need. Are you going to look at even people who you may not disagree with, and you look at their whole entire life, and you may have gotten along well with them fine, but now there's a disagreement, and now you hate them and you want them dead? Really? Really? Do you really want them dead? Do you really, if they've decided to take the vaccine, are you really hoping they get something bad from it? And you have to be honest right now with how you're really feeling. I think part of what's going on, the diversity of and all of the really bad things that have been said from all kinds of people at all kinds of angles, is there is, in a sense, this feeling of needing to be right. And so sometimes if we get so involved in the concept of needing to be right, what you're potentially willing to allow to occur in order to be right is not pretty. So, many people right now who don't believe in these vaccines, you kind of maybe backed yourself up against the wall, is that the only way to be right is to have a lot of people who have taken the vaccine or are in fear and feel they need to protect themselves. Are you wanting them to be hurt? Are you wanting them to die off because they're stupid? I mean, really, do you really feel that way about your fellow man right now? And so we have to kind of sit back. Now, to whose advantage potentially would it be for you to truly want that to occur to another human being? And they won't, they don't actually care, but they may have an agenda of population reduction. And so any way it can be done is fine with them. And they're able now to co-opt your skills to take something that maybe was a speed bump and to make it a head-on collision. And using your co-creative skills that are maybe a little out of control right now, because you actually are trying to be right. You're actually trying to, satisfy a personal potential ego that's out of control. Okay. And you're willing to make that the most important thing. And you have to ask yourself, is that truly the most important thing? Or did you want to move forward? Did you want other things to begin to happen? So this is very, very real. These, what do they do and how do they do it? They will get you to feel. And how has that been done? For people that aren't old enough, for people that are probably 40 years old or less, you may not realize this, but people who were in the high political offices prior to that actually compromised. They actually tried to do things where it may not be an all win on one side, not an all win on the other, but what can we do to maybe start to, compromise, and everyone then can just kind of accept this is where we are right now and keep moving on. From the 70s forward, there started to become this era of all or nothing that began to envelop. And that is what has been modeled as somehow appropriate behavior by the leaders and by different people in, in your community, in your, local governments, the state governments, and then the federal. So is that the world you want? All or nothing? Is there no way to have any balance where there is an acceptable middle ground? Used to be that way, not that way anymore. And so if they have been able to literally now teach you that it's an all or nothing, winner take all kind of atmosphere, then that is the mentality that the public has tended now to accept. It's all or nothing. And that's a very dangerous place to be living, because it will turn, and this election is a perfect example.
Mm-hmm.
Half the public now hates the other half of the public. And it's a very dangerous place to be.
A prelude to like another civil war or civil conflict. Yeah.
And so when you look back, and those that study history, we've also been trying to say that history does repeat itself. You don't have to go back very far. Study what happened before World War II and how this all or nothing, I'm right, you're wrong. I'm going to hate you because of it, and I am willing to destroy you because of it mentality was already successfully done. Okay. Led to a lot of deaths. And now it's being done a little bit differently, but it's the same thing, not in an all out and out war type of scenario. Although the way things are going, there will be skirmishes. Okay. I'm not saying an all and out war, but there will potentially be skirmishes that are going to pop up over this. But the concept of the hate, then the rage coming up, that you really can look at your neighbors, and if they are wearing a mask or not wearing a mask, or wanting to take the vaccine or not wanting to take the vaccine, you end up with this pure hatred now. And you have to be aware that this has been a instilled programming to react this way.
Extremely instilled programming. Also, do you really want a world where people are chipped and vaccinated and there's no choice or anything left? Do you want the FEMA camp timeline? Do you want that? I always ask people if they truly want that. And some people go, well, no, that's going to happen. It's like, no, do you want that? Because don't say that it's going to happen. This may be what those people want, but it doesn't mean they're going to get it. So you may know their agenda. You may know, like how Viking always talk about their contract, but it doesn't mean that it has to play out. There's variations in that contract too. There's variations the way that can play out. It doesn't mean that those really horrid parts of it have to play out. All that's playing has to play out is where you can see they have an agenda. That's it.
So
Yeah.
one important area that will be kind of invaded so that you can help lend those energies to will be dream time.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, so people are going to be having these visions and these different things that are not going to be pleasant. And they're going to be kind of led to believe, I had a vision. Guess what's coming down in the next year or two? Okay. And then everyone then starts to believe it and starts to co-create it. The same actual concept is the same thing. If anybody going in to see maybe a psychic on their love life, this kind of, did they see the future, or did they help this person potentially co-create,
Mm-hmm.
a future?
Like what I always tell people, what do they want out of it?
Right. So you ask, what do you want, versus setting, potentially telling them what's going to happen.
And sometimes I will see things ahead that are going to happen, like with certain specific people, I will see specific locations and specific things, but I still say, what do you want out of that person that you are trying to co-create?
Right. And so there's a big difference of showing someone the potential of possibilities. What do you want? And again, some of these visions are a potential of a possibility, not saying that they're not that, but do you want it? So one of the hardest things for people to do oftentimes is to just say no. Mm-hmm. So one of the things, again, that everyone needs to work on when they hear something, again, how the news, drives now a conversation. They're no longer just reporting. They're giving commentary to a point of view that they want you to adapt. Mm-hmm. They're not doing that anymore. That has changed over time as well. Again, for those that are younger, they may not have, been able to see when it was a little bit more neutral. They're just into now this, okay. However, I will also give kudos to those that were born in younger, because they were born in with a stronger sense of no. Mm-hmm. I don't accept it, that is a balance to the other. And so I'm always happy to see, people coming in and with a strong sense of authenticity that is not being washed away. That's good. But you have to understand that these are the tactics kind of that have been used. So I often say, listen to what's been said, but if you don't want that to occur, then your immediate response to whatever you said is, no. And again, when you talk about your co-creative ability and skills and your intention and the power of creation, you really have to mean it. It's not a maybe. We're not talking maybe. Well, no, it's no. And again, as we put up the talk we did when we were at a last fair, and, I was trying to stress then, especially for girls, women, and I'm going to say what some people consider a cuss word, but I don't actually care if you think it's a cuss word, because it's been utilized to put women down. So this is where I say, this is where you need to become the biggest bitch you can be in your wisdom to send that energy back out, meaning no, there is no other option. There is no escape hatch. When I mean no, I mean no. It's very important in your lives now that no means no, yes means yes, and maybe define it. For me, maybe means if it can be done. That's what maybe means. I'm not against it. I'm not whatever, but I don't know if within the time frame of what we're talking, it can be accomplished. But if it can, I'm certainly open to it. That's what maybe means. And so it's not a false thing, meaning some kids have grown up in talking to their parents, maybe always really meant no, but the parents just wanted to be kind and not say no. That's not what maybe meant for me. My children understood what maybe meant, but they also understood what yes meant, and they understood when no was no. And there was no wavering. You must get into your co-creative skills where that is how you're thinking, where yes, I'm moving forward with this thought, I'm seeing it, or no, it is unacceptable. Okay. Or you haven't decided. You really haven't decided yet, which is fine. You don't always have to be either yes or no in something. You can wait it out and see, and that's acceptable as well as you're, moving along in life that you don't know yet.
Mm-hmm.
So it's all okay. So again, we want you to understand how this is occurring. So yes, it is a co-opted thing where thoughts are being put into your mind, and then you have to decide whether you're going to go with those thoughts as being somehow real. It's inevitable, things like that, because a lot of thoughts are being pushed out there right now, like lots of fishing lines to see what you're going to hook to. A lot of things are being played out within the medias, within TV, within different things to get your mind co-opted in a certain way. Again, some of the most dangerous places to be in your own thoughts is the person who just kind of gives up, the people that say things can never change. Okay. And, or the ones that just say it's inevitable, things like that. Those people are the ones that are being actually utilized the most,
Mm-hmm.
okay, to drive some of this co-creation. So in order to, again, co-create in an effective way, you must be in tune with how you truly feel. So I always am like, I know everyone's frustrated about the election. I know everyone is frustrated about the masks. I know people are frustrated about the vaccines. That is fine. I get it. Okay. But when you look out and you see all of your neighbors walking by, or you go to the store, or you go there, you need to sit your butt down in your car or something for a minute and really say to yourself, do I really hate these people to the point where I don't want them to exist anymore?
Mm-hmm.
Do you? I mean, if you really do, fine. No, accept it. Be that way. This is apparently what your life experience is supposed to be about. That's not the problem, because there certainly are people that hate that much. Okay. And they're not going to magically go away. They really do. The vast majority of the people, no matter how frustrated they are right now, most likely don't feel that way. They really don't. They want this to be over. They want the pain and agony to be over. They're tired. Okay, I get all of that. You guys should too. But do you really hate your fellow man? Do you really hate them, that you would want to win an argument about something and see them have massive adverse reactions to a vaccine, that you're accepting that because you have a point to prove? Do you really hate people that much? I think the vast majority of the people really don't. And this is where they're, again, because of being tired, because of wanting this over, because of all of this stuff, your co-creative skills are being co-opted again because of being tired and different things that you don't recognize. You're giving energies now to something that isn't for society's highest good. So just a second to talk about vaccines and medicine. Guys, it's called the practice of medicine. Yes, maybe underground, maybe in some recesses of some dark things, a lot of information has been found out. It's not released to the surface, okay? That's a bottom line right now. I don't feel it's right either, but it is that. You have a lot of people out there in the medical profession who are even scientists. Not all of them are bad. Not all of them are unscrupulous, but yes, there's unscrupulous people within it, pretty much a lot of true negativity. The infrastructure of the negativity has infiltrated all over the place. And if you haven't started to be disappointed by people you thought were untouched, you're going to see them and you're going to be thinking, I thought they wouldn't have done that. I thought they wouldn't have been a part of that. You know, you're going to try to find an excuse still to why you believe you're not seeing what you're seeing. First of all, you're going to try to put a spin on it because it's going to be too hard to accept, but you're going to continue to see these things because there is a vast infrastructure in place in any corporation, in any profession, in anything that is trying to drive a different agenda and is part of that different agenda. It is there. We've been saying this for a very long time. And now what's coming is people are seeing the depths of it. So you have to understand that that actually is going on. But you have the abilities to say no. And then you have the ability to start taking some time to, in your mind, co-create what you want it to be like. You have to allow some of this negativity to come up. You have to see it. You want to know all of the nooks and crannies of it because you want to be able to make sure that you are well versed on what you don't want to kind of occur anymore and what is for your highest good and for others. So in the practice of medicine, again, yes, you may have in the deep, dark spaces these things that have already been perfected, but that's not the people on the surface. Those aren't the surface doctors. You may definitely have people that have an agenda that try to do something, if they can with vaccines, but that is not everybody, number one. And number two, they have to do some of this with your co-creative fears that you take now a speed bump and you turn it into a car wreck. Mm-hmm. So we've told you this plenty of times before. There is something to the intention of blessing things. We've told you there really is something to the intention of blessing your foods. May the nutrients come in. May any negativities go out. Okay, for your highest good. Now, there is something to be said for the highest good to figure out contaminations, okay? You will. But again, do you want it to be a speed bump that maybe needs to occur so things can be cleaned up a little better? You've gone too far. Or do you want it to be an utter train wreck? The same thing with vaccines. Bless them. And if you do not hate your fellow man, I would be sending out blessings for the highest good for anyone who felt the need to take it. Okay? There will be adverse reactions that are established like every single other vaccine out there. We haven't perfected all of this yet. Okay? It's going to happen. But do you really want it to be mass death because you have a point to play that you have the need to say, I told you so?
Yeah, I still, again, wouldn't trust this, but at the same time, don't wish mass death on people because they're on the opposite end of the spectrum.
And that's what I'm talking about. There are going to be some people who feel it is right to do this. They're not saying it because they don't care. They're saying it because in their mind, they feel this is the right path for them, for members of their family. They're not evil, okay? They may be wearing masks for the same reason. Okay, so this is, again, where's the grace? And then on the other end, where is the grace for people who feel they don't want to subject themselves? They don't want to put their family through something that maybe should be studied a little bit longer. They don't feel the need that they're at high risk, thus they don't feel the need that they need to wear a mask, okay? Now, we can get into what the data supports, and a lot of you already know what the data supports, but there's no grace going on either end of this. And we will never, and I mean never, move into any sort of unity until people start giving grace. Okay? It's you are going to, which is the goal. Let's keep humanity down by keeping them circling the toilet on as many subjects as possible. Because until you realize that maybe what's more important to you is to move on and to drop the baggage of having to be constantly right or righteous in your cause, you yourselves are still circling drains. It doesn't mean, okay, that you believe that maybe there's something wrong, thus you want to do it, and you don't want to see others subjected to it. There's nothing wrong with that thought. There's nothing wrong with that thought whatsoever. Send out grace to those who feel they need it. Send out, blessings, and to the highest, for the highest good. And, again, there would be probably enough information with potentially just a speed bump's worth of adverse reactions as there would be with a train wreck of adverse reaction. But do you really want the train wreck? And so this is where people have to truly reflect upon themselves and what they are able to do. And this is the fine art of transmuting and the fine art of co-creating for yours and others' highest good. Okay? You have to understand that certain things that you have been programmed to believe, again, the all or nothing, it has been a slow programming of society to think this is the only way you're supposed to think. It's either all or nothing. There is no acceptable in between.
You're either for or against.
You're either for or against. They want that mentality to stay. And, the goal is to let it go and to realize is that, why do you need to have your point proven? Why isn't just being able to move forward acceptable? And so we get a lot of flack for this type of conversation.
Because people don't always want to stand outside of that. They also want heroes to save them as well. And we've had this discussion a lot. There's Superman and Batman ain't coming, folks. You actually have to co-create and correct these things yourselves. And several of the Galactics have said that sort of thing. They want them to swoop in and do things. Well, the Galactics, you're giving them far more power than sometimes they have, except for the extremely advanced, uber advanced races out there. There's some that, they know the way the system operates here, with some of the Nazi control and everything. They're not going to always break that. They expect us to break the chains and co-create a different future. And that's the common thread and common message that has been coming through lately. Basically be in your co-creative center, in your creative center, in your passion, and also don't allow bullying, but at the same time, don't participate in the chess game.
So let me give you a couple of examples of things that are going on right now that some of you may be familiar with in the political world. Now, I'm not going to name names because this is not specific to a person. This is more specific to a way, let's say a strategy being utilized of how to do something, okay? So the person isn't as important as you recognizing the strategy that's being used. So one of the interesting strategies that's being used and always has been used is co-opting somebody's sense of wanting to get along and somebody's sense of, taking, taking the higher road. There's an innateness in that within the human being. It's a good quality that generally humans have and have had up until this moment. And there's a lot of people that still have that quality really intact. There comes one of the strategies that is use what they hold valuable against them. So, this concept of wanting to get along, again, to move things forward. Now, you're going to think that I'm now backtracking, but I'm not. I want you to get the strategy of how it's being done. Because asserting yourself to say no more of this is very important. One of the strategies would be basically taking that and now bullying you with it. So, for example, when you have people, again, this country is really in a division right now, one side against the others, right? Democrats, Republicans, if you're involved in the political conversation and you're seeing what's going on. So now there is a call for unity, right? It always happens after an election. This call for unity right now being said out loud by some people is now a bullying threat. Basically, we need to unify or there will be war. Okay? Or there will be some such of a consequence. That's no longer a cry for unity because it's the best thing possible. That's a cry for unity as a bullying technique for you to give in any belief systems that you have, right? And or wanting you to create war. Okay, it's a bullying technique of words that get into your head, which means I either have to give in or there's war, or I'm not going to get in, so there's going to be war. Do you see how it's now the way that the words are being co-opted? It's not a true unity at all. It's threats, and it's an attempt to get you to co-create one of two things. Co-create what it feels like to constantly give in, or co-create a war. Who wins on either side of that? Think about this. Who is the ones that are really then going to win? It'll still be the ones who want to dominate and control. So you have to say no in your mind that I am rejecting everything you just said. I'm not, please, as if that is the only way to cut a pie. No, this is where I say it's like you hear some of this stuff and it's like it's either this or this. You either give up your belief system. Why does it have to be that way? It doesn't. But this is the strategies now that are being used. The strategies also are being used, as a veiled threat. Okay. If you believed a certain way and we actually come into power, we are going to crush you. So what are you going to do? It's basically saying you better be quiet. You better not do anything. You better just get along. You better pretend you didn't believe a different way. It's a veiled threat. Because what would it mean if you chose not to? The answer to some of these things that are being said, as again, I use Charlie Brown's teacher. Wah, 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 wah. Them's a lot of words that just float out of your mouth, but they mean nothing to me. Nothing. I reject it. I reject the tone. I reject what you're saying. I will not accept that that this is the only way that it can go down. I don't care that you're the one with the mic. Do you see what I'm saying? And you need to now forward with your co-creative abilities how you want to see things going down. So these are the strategies now that are being used to still have some form. And again, people need to give more credit to the unifying event of saying, no, I don't accept this. You don't treat another person this way. This is not how our world is going down. You must start co-creating these thoughts. And the biggest thing you can do right now is to start rejecting what's coming out of some of these people's mouths. Just reject it. Just say, this is unacceptable. This is not the world I want. I don't want to be treated this way in these veiled threats, nor do I want to see someone else treated that way in veiled threats. No, the answer is no. And if you are a type of person in whatever situation you're in with a big old mic, I don't want to see people like you up there anymore. And this is how you start to change things when enough people recognize what's actually going on in order to say no to it, in order to demand that this stop. And this is not the world you want to live in. But you have to understand the subtleties to the strategies that are actually being used. Okay? It's all out there.
Mhm.
It's all out there. But they have people so wound up now that you're not seeing it.
Yeah, there's strategies all out in the open, folks. It's pretty much everywhere. It's been displayed, as you know, in the media. It's been displayed in pretty much everything. They're basically telling you their agenda beforehand. Their magic doesn't work unless they actually at least tell you a piece of what they're actually doing, either piecemealed or the entire thing. They told you basically the entire thing in movies and everything, and games, what it is they're actually planning and what it is they're actually doing. You just have to listen to it and then co-create a different timeline from there. People discount sometimes some of the different medias, like say video games, for instance, or some of the things in movies, even from long ago. And I always tell them, it's like, no, you have to pay attention to those things. They're basically telling you what they're doing right there. Even in recent times in the news, like Fauci, for instance, he told everybody a few years ago that there was going to be a sickness in 2020. And everybody, you try to say that, and people say, no, that's conspiracy theory. It came out of his own mouth. So they basically are telling you what the agenda is just prior to them doing it. But you have the ability to uncreate and co-create something completely different. Yes, do you hear Viking and I say some of the elements have to play out so more people wake up? Yes, but it doesn't mean it has to be a dystopian future. It can be a completely balanced and co-creative one, but still the object of you seeing their agenda is to actually co-create it out of existence.
And again, instability is another tactic that's used. And so if you can actually reflect back into some of the recommendations that were given during COVID in the very beginning, and then some of the recommendations that are now being given now, there is instability in these recommendations, almost to like, which way are we going now? There were recommendations in the beginning by the people of the highest to the masks weren't really going to be helpful in this. Then their tune was changed. And then the style of masks got even less and less effective, but were acceptable because they were covering your face, even if it's just a little silk cloth.
And they're more of a symbol now. They're a symbol
Right.
of division, either on one side or the other. Either you're against the mask, which, yeah, I have been because of what it represents. But then you have the other side that are completely for it. But there is a complete focus on it. It has literally become, like I've always said, like a religious artifact or a symbol, something that categorizes a concept. And that's what it's become.
And then you look at recommendations later down the road where you may have schools should be closed. You should be doing this. And now there seems to be so much evidence pouring out that those same people that were saying things should be closed are saying now that things shouldn't be closed. But in a sense, it's an interesting test to now have those same people saying, no, the evidence is now showing something else. We probably should, do this now. And then the hysteria has gotten people so far off that they can't even hear these new these recommendations to restore in certain areas, because the mass hysteria has gotten people to the point where they can't even hear that at all anymore. So, and again, we're talking the same people that were saying different things at different times. So I find it interesting. It certainly was a litmus test to see some of the heads of things now saying, well, the evidence is showing it's safe to be in school, and no one's listening anymore because they're so far gone. Okay, it's like, aha, they're so far gone. They won't even listen to this truth anymore. They're already so far gone.
They
got them
blocked it out
hooked good.
already. Yeah.
Got them hooked good.
And people want this to be done so much, they're not paying attention.
They're not. Yeah. People are spinning.
They're done. They're fried.
They're fried. They're fried. Their egg is fried. They don't even know how to do it. So these are all strategies that are utilized, okay, if there is a negative agenda, and I am being careful picking my words intentionally, if there is a negative agenda for anything, these are the strategies that are utilized, okay? You need to understand that. And again, you need to know who you are and how you really feel. Okay, so you have to step back from all of this and just look at your fellow man and start with the basics. You know, do I really want all these people? Do I really hate them that much? And again, if you do, own it. This world has everything on it. We've done it all. There's still going to be some people right now that need to be jerks to balance out and throughout the rest of their lives. They need to be a jerk.
Yeah, and also another important point that's part of this overall thing is don't be part of the propaganda machine either, knowingly or unknowingly. You know, I'm not saying keep anything to yourself, but don't, just make sure you're observant of all the things that have happened thus far on either side, and don't become part of it. Say you have someone that has passed away from supposedly COVID. Don't bring it out and report it as such. Just don't become part of that overall propaganda machine, because the media propaganda machine is just going to eat it up and take it and regurgitate it back out, and it's not going to be pretty. So don't become part of that. Even if you're in a debilitated state, you're mourning, do not, please, for the love of God, do not become part of that on either side. Especially on the one where, especially because the media likes to become the COVID propaganda machine. Don't become part of that. Don't let any other foreign thoughts come into your head going, oh, I may want to contact the press because I got to speak out, against people that are saying COVID doesn't exist or anything like that. Don't go that route. Just don't be part of it. Don't be part of it. And if you're on the opposite end of the spectrum, I'm not saying don't speak your mind or don't speak the truth, because I would say I would be contradictory if I said something like that. But again, don't become part of the media's propaganda machine on the opposite end of the spectrum, where they make you look like a bad guy. Don't do that either.
Right. There's nothing wrong with discussing this. This is very important to all of our lives.
Yes.
But in the context of that, we try to make it in the context of understanding your feelings, understanding your fears, understanding all of that, and understanding who you really are as a co-creative being. And again, there is nothing wrong with having a conversation about anything. There is nothing wrong with being angered. There is nothing wrong with being as joyous as possible. There's nothing wrong with that spectrum. It's when you get stuck that then you start lending your co-creative skills to something that you may not even want to be lending your skills to because of what it means will come down the road, but you don't realize you're stuck. And so that is what we're talking about. And we're talking about the strategies that are used that are keeping you from co-creating what you want versus what someone else wants. You must become aware of these things that are going on so that you can make a choice to either be a part of it, or for most of you, not be a part of it, and to move your co-creations into other ways of how you would like to see the world be. Mm-hmm. Now, we normally do a segment with the Galactics on our lifting show. I don't know, because this has really been something more that you and I have been doing, whether you feel that anyone wants to make a contribution or just us today.
I think it's just us today, yeah.
So, we're going to skip that because we've had a lot to say ourselves, and we feel this is very, very important. Certainly, honestly, if you've listened before and you've heard, the Galactics have already said most of what we've talked about in one form or another. They have actually already, spoken on these subjects and try to warn people about this and not lending your co-creative skills. So they've had these discussions and said many things already about it. The one thing, again, as far as a ending affirmation and blessing, I know you want to say something, but I want to say, in lieu of an affirmation and blessing, Chris is going to show you something here at the end. And I'm going to try and do this without great emotion. For many of you that know, my sister passed away last year in September. She was 58 years old, and she literally went to take a nap and didn't wake up. Okay. My sister was such a strong supporter of the work that we were doing, and she's actually, in her way, very spiritual, but she would often make sentences like, I know I believe what you're saying, I just don't quite understand it. And she'd always ask questions, and she would always do this, but she was such a firm supporter of the basics, again, of our information and wanting to find different ways to put it out. I think oftentimes we all, I don't want to say put us down, but undervalue our own wisdom and really undervalue it, that we actually have it, that we actually do. And you may even be living it, but you don't give yourself the credit that you deserve for the wisdom keeper that you are. And so the affirmation and blessing that we're going to have tonight here at the end is actually going to be something that my sister created. Now, I'm not saying the saying that you're going to see is this her creation. What she created was the quilt that you see with the affirmation and blessing in the center. And it's an interesting thing because I have this on the wall. So if I get up and sit on the side of my bed, I get to look at it. And it is an interesting thing because in that is all the wisdom of understanding that we can and we will transmute things around us, and we will co-create once we let some of these other things go and we actually start doing what we consider our heart's work. Okay. And so we've always said this before, and I say it again. If you can detangle yourself from some of this going on, try to remember what it is that brings you joy and focus on some of these things. It could be simply writing. Many people have written poems, and those energies of those poems, whether you feel they're heard or seen or unseen, they're important to the spiritual music of everyone because they go into the akashics and they are heard. They're a part of the beautiful melodies. Some people like to sing, but they don't sing anymore. They don't sing in the shower like they used to. Bring these joys back, as ever humble that you think they may be, because the harmonics of that are what will start to transmute around you. Stop being afraid to talk to people, and if you feel that you do care for people, take the time, open the door for somebody else, say a kind remark to them. Do something rather than cower back and be afraid. Little things like this, just in there. And if you feel that you're stuck at home, your thoughts are not stuck. The co-creations that you're putting out of your brain leave you and go out. So make them valuable. Make them something that is going to be helpful for yourself and people around you. And remember that your thoughts are things and that you actually aren't stuck at home and unable to make a positive contribution to the society as a whole. So I know you want to say something and you'll have the last say, but then you'll see something again that my very wise sister.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and I'll post that image while she's talking in this because before we did this recording, I took a picture of that, and you'll see an image of a quilt with a bunch of hands on it, and the phrase in the center. So I'm thinking we can actually leave it there.
Okay.
Thank you everybody for listening to this impromptu episode of The Lifting. You more than likely won't see this until after Christmas. By this time, it's 12/13/2020 at the moment. It will it's going to be before New Year's or after New Year's. I don't know which one. So thank you everybody for watching this. Bye-bye, everybody.